Hi, it's Dia. Today I'm going to take this image from the Buns Artist Edition, and once again I'm going to continue using Prang, very expensive, no, inexpensive watercolor paints. And I'm going to use this brush that just came with the set. So let's get started. The top of this image has a tree trunk, and I thought that since, in my opinion, that part of the image would easily get lost and sort of become unimportant because there's a lot going on there. I wanted to make the tree stand out too. So I decided I was going to make the tree trunk not just brown. I think since we've been kids, and if any of us have been painting or drawing, I think one of the first things that we draw is the brown trunk of a tree, the green kind of circular top to a tree, blue sky. In fact, we used to make the blue sky straight across the top and then a yellow sun. And not that any of that is wrong, but I wanted to make this interesting. So the first color that I used there was orange. And I thought those parts of the tree might be reflecting the sun a little bit more. And I also thought that this image would probably be well, not the image. I thought that part of the image, the tree trunk, that little hobbity house would sort of be in and amongst shadows, but not completely in the shadows. So I use the orange, and I do use some yellows later because I figured those would be the areas that look like they're getting some light shining on them through the leaves and the tree branches. I also decided that I wanted to use as many colors as I possibly could, like this sort of maroon red in these roots that are kind of winding through those rocks on that house, because I thought the rocks were going to be very cool colored, sort of green and maybe slate gray, maybe a little brown. I thought they'd be mossy, so I wanted to give the tree trunk and the tree roots the look of vibrancy and life. So I wanted to add as many colors as possible, like I said. Around the perimeter of those roots, I made it dark because I wanted the roots to have the illusion of being rounded. So around the edges, I made them brown, and I used browns, that maroonish color. I even used some greens and blues because I thought those colors would lend themselves also to like that shadowy, deep in the forest feel. I went back in a couple times, and I did put some greens and even aqua color on the top of the branches too, because I thought that, no, not branches, the roots, because I thought that uh, interspersed with the oranges and the lights would be some shadows. Now, in the areas that I thought would be in the most shadow, I went in with the black. I didn't use too much, but enough to really give a contrast. I think that some people, and I used to be this way completely, I think it's scary to use a very intense color, and black being the most intense of all, so it's the most scary. Because you know what? In all fairness, it's true. If you screw it up, it's the hardest to correct. Um, so you kind of have to get used to almost being willing to give it a whirl, because those deep, intense shadows are what make the picture, in my opinion. So I was looking through some of the comments in my coloring gallery, and Claudia Nay requested that I continue this image in watercolor and to do another video. So that's why you're watching this right now, so thanks for the suggestion, Claudia. I really appreciate it, and thanks for buying the buns too. Um, so I'm discovering that I really like using watercolor for coloring. I used to use watercolor quite a bit. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, right now I'm adding some more warm colors. It's sort of, I mixed the red with a little bit of brown. Um, Now I'm going in with green. And this is one of those great moments. I just wanted to interrupt myself because it doesn't look great right now. In fact, it looks pretty bad. And I kind of like when that happens now because I can show you that it it's not automatically pretty. You have to work on these things, and that's actually perfectly okay. And once again, if you really don't like the way it looks, just keep going because you're probably not quite done yet. I'm going in with a little bit of white here, and I'm using it on the right hand. Not that there's an edge on these roots, but I'm trying to make it so it looks rounded. You can see some of the curves. Um, Doing a curved stroke on the edges of the brushes sort of makes the roots appear curved, and then when there's a light portion on top, um, there seems to be dimension. I'm adding some black on the tops of the roots also because I didn't want it to appear too smooth and perfect. Coloring and painting these roots made me realize something also. Coloring is, I don't know, it's a very interesting hobby because you literally can do anything you want. And I think that sometimes we get like wrapped up in it being perfect. And I'm starting to realize again how much I love watercolor. And not that you have to love watercolor too, but if you find the thing that you really love and it feels so good to do it and you can't wait to do it again, that's just as important as how the image comes out, because one lends itself to the other. If you love it, you'll keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and just by default you'll get better. And not that the goal is to get better, but you won't be able to help it. So now what I'm doing is taking sort of shadowy colors, but nothing pure black. I took some, as you can see, I mixed blue with green, with yellow, with a little bit of black, so it sort of turned it into a gray. And I started to form the shapes of the rocks. I made shadows around the edges because I thought that the tops, the part that's facing you, would be the lightest because that would be getting the most sun. Oop, I guess I'm going to be doing a window here. Right about here, I realized I should be showing you how I'm mixing these colors because it isn't just a matter of like choosing one. Almost everything that I did, I mixed up. So I thought there would be a nice glow in the window. And then as the light came out, I thought it would appear slightly more diffused. So I added some dark to the edges of the windows. And I wanted to make it look like the back of the house, the interior of the house was glowing. And I ended up making the wood in front of the house very black, and the darker it is, the lighter the inside and the more glowing it appeared. So I added a little bit more black to this layer of the rocks. And I also realized during this video that watercolors are so transparent that you can build layers really easily. So you can go in with a super light, almost neutral. Then you can go in with a blue kind of shadow, and then you can add the green moss on the other side. And then if you want, you could go in on top of all that and add light or shadow. Oh, right here, I was thinking that I probably should make the candle look a little bit glowy so you can see around the candle. Whoop, I covered it, but I left sort of like a ring or several rings of yellow. So I started to paint the door and instantly regretted it. I thought I'm going to be using so many shades of brown because it's supposed to be in the woods. And so I let it dry, and then later on I'm going to cover it. Now, this took a little bit of thought here because I didn't know if I was going to fill in all the white between the rocks or if I was going to leave it whitish and almost make it look like there was grout in the middle. So I sort of thought probably the thing that would make it look the most interesting would be to put like very dark in between, because it would probably be in the dirt. Underneath the roots of the tree would be in the dirt. So rather than make it look sandy or make it look white and grouty, I went back in with a mixture of black and brown and filled in all those areas. And this is my favorite kind of thing to paint, when you can use the itty bitty tip of the brush and just go back over and over. It's kind of relaxing and like you can zone out, and it feels so good to do it with the brush, especially if you have a really nice brush. And to be honest with you, that is a really nice brush, but it was free. It came with the kit. So I don't know how fancy it is, but I love it. Now this is Schwarz Black. It's a polychromos pencil that I sharpened to a really good point. And I went over and filled in some of the areas that I thought needed to be a little bit darker around those stones. I'm also doing a lot of work and coloring in around leaves and those little tiny bleeding hearts, and I do think that the image will look much prettier once I have those bleeding hearts colored in with the pinks and the purples and the reds, but I'm not going to do that today. I just want to focus on these earthy colors for now. I'm taking the pencil and I'm adding some more dimension and rockiness to those stones, just to add some dimension and to make them all look a little bit different. This was actually really fun to do. Oh, and I did want to say, in this picture, those stones had little, sometimes it was little dots indicating where I thought the shadows would be, or little lines, and I did follow them sometimes, but I also added some of my own. Oh, now I'm doing the door. I don't know why I decided I was going to make all this blue, possibly because below it the water has those blues in it too, and I thought it would tie it in really nicely. I do have some other watercolor sets. I have a Winsor and Newton, and I have one from Japan, and I don't actually, is it a Sakura? I'll have to check. But there's a whole lot more colors, and maybe in the next video, when I work on the leaves or I work on the background, I think I'm going to add some bokeh to the background, or maybe even lightning bugs, to add some dimension to the back. Maybe I'll add those fancy watercolor paints. And you know, as I'm doing this, I can't even imagine that like I would like them any more than this $9 set that I'm using right now. And I could be completely wrong, but I'm just having so much fun here that I don't know. Oop, I'm adding some detail to the door. And I still wanted to give the impression that that door was wood. Oh, you know what? I also used this Posca pen in some areas when I just wanted to make it look less tiny. I went back in and I did make a shadow on the outside of that candle, but it made it softer and kind of look more real. I also softened up some of the edges in the windows and in the flame, and I was happy that I did that too. So here, the wood in front of the window, I was trying to make it look a little detailed, like it was actually wood. And then the darker I made that area, the more I realized that as it got darker, the interior looked brighter. So I ended up going over what you see now and making that wood black. And once again, I'm going back in and adding some dimension to the rocks, to the candle. I'm trying to think, was that the only colored pencil that I used? Oop, I went in and made the flame orange, and I added some of that orange into the background of the window. And here's where I decided to make that black. Here I took a Brunswick bright yellow pencil and I started to go over some of the areas around the glowing flame, the window, and what I thought was a lightning bug. So I thought the glow would probably extend farther than I had already indicated, so I just went in and added some more yellow. Here I'm making some details on that little lightning bug with the Brunswick pencils. That's a little bit of orange around the perimeter, and then I did use some watercolor after I filled it in with some black again for the wings. And I used the Posca also after I put some gray on his face to just give some shape to it. Made his eyes a little bit bigger, more noticeable. And there's the white on the wings. I mean, I guess that didn't have to be a lightning bug, but I thought that was kind of nice because there was already such a glow in that area. Why not? So this image is far from finished, but I had a really good time doing it, and I hope you liked it too. And if you did, I hope you give me a thumbs up and possibly even subscribe to me, and maybe even share it with somebody who you think might like it too. I'd also like to invite you to my coloring group on Facebook. I would love to see you there. And I guess that's it. Oh, all the links for all the products that I used will be below. And once again, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you soon. I will be finishing this image, not this week, but in a few videos. So thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.